Prime time local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
On Tuesday, it was announced that schools will be open on September 1st across Saskatchewan. Connor Chan chats with MLA Colleen Young on what guidelines could be in place, as well as an update as we get ready for Phase 4.
Joining me once again is Colleen Young, the MLA for Lloydminster. So Colleen, thank you very much for joining me again.
You're welcome. Thank you for the invite, Connor.
Well, since we last talked, Lloydminster wasn't allowed to be a part of Phase 1 because of the outbreak at the hospital there. Now that we're into Phase 3, what's the latest that you have from Scott Moe in terms of an update as we get ready heading into Phase 4 in the coming weeks?
Well, I think, we all have seen that our numbers are staying very low and our active case numbers is way down. So we've had discussion about moving things a little quicker and opening our economy up a little faster than what we anticipated.
With now being in Phase 3 here, where all the amenities in Phase 1 and 2, do you think that was the correct time to allow those amenities to be in those certain phases?
Well, I think so. As you know, we've, in consultation with our chief medical officer and our SHA medical folks, we've been cautiously watching this virus and where the hot spots are. And of course, as you've known, that up here in the far north and the north are where most of the cases had been, as well as in Saskatoon. So, it was, doing things in a cautious and slow enough manner, giving time to be able to watch the virus and see if it's going to light up anywhere else. So, I think that we did things in the right order and in the right way and the right timing.
Now, I know it's in the early stages right now, but it was just announced that schools will be going back in classrooms starting on September 1st. I guess, what are some of the early kind of guidelines that you may know of before all that information is getting released pretty soon here?
Well, as you heard from the minister yesterday, on Monday or Tuesday, whatever it was, that he announced that, yes, school will be resuming on September the 1st for pre-K to grade 12 students. And he is in consultation as well with our chief medical officer, as well as our the STF. Teachers have to be taken into consideration, as well as the students and directors and superintendents and parent councils across the province, to put in place some measures that maybe if there happens, even once school goes back into place, that if there happens to be an outbreak again, what that might look like. We in March shut everything down. As you know, kids went home and were completely out of school, but whether we need to do that again, I'm not sure. And that's some of the discussion that's going on right now. So that if there is a surge again in the fall, would we continue on what we're doing and just isolate certain districts, schools, or would we end up having to shut it down altogether? So that's the conversation that needs to be had right now.
How big of a decision was it to make to allow students to go back on September 1st?
Well, it's a big decision when you're talking about a pandemic and a virus that could quite easily spread and be very deadly. But at the same time, I think it was important for the government to recognize that students do need to be back in school. And teachers, I'm sure, will welcome the opportunity to be back in school with their students as well. So, that was an easy part of it, saying that we need to put that normality back into people's lives and parents' lives as well. But as we said, there has to be some discussion around measures just in case.
Have you heard from residents now as we kind of move back into Phase 3 now, starting up as of this week? Have you had a chance to chat with some business owners and some residents about how things have been going so far during the reopen phase?
Yeah, I have. And I think what some folks are finding is it is a little bit different in having to have restrictions on the cleaning and on timing and spacing between clients, particularly, in whether it's hairdressers or aesthetics of any kind, or even our dental offices and places like that. They're not able to see as many people as they had in the past. So it is going to be a bit of a struggle for the economy to get itself back up and running to the point where they are making what they were making before. So I think that has been a bit of a struggle for people, is to following the restrictions that the chief medical officer has put in place.
Well, Colleen, I really appreciate your time as always, joining me and chatting with me about what Premier Scott Moe has in plan for the province of Saskatchewan and for us here in Lloydminster. So thank you.
You're more than welcome, Connor. It was good to talk to you again, and hopefully again in the near future.
Restaurants are now allowed to operate at a 50% capacity, but one Lloydminster business is going to keep its seating closed. Eric Bay has more on why Spiro's will not be open for dine-in just yet.
I'm joined today by Maria Kokonis and Eleni Young with Spiro's here in Lloydminster. Thank you for coming on today. Now the Saskatchewan government has allowed dine-in seating at restaurants since Monday, but you guys have decided to not open up your dine-in portion. Can you just tell me about that decision?
No, we just wanted to, I suppose I keep calling it testing the market and just letting other people test it a little bit, and because there's changes all the time. And I remember when this first went, when we went into the initial part of COVID, every day there was something different. Now we want it, now you have to do this, and now you have to do this. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen with the opening, but I just feel like as different things arise, different problems come into fruition, I think that we will see a little bit of that. And we just want the first at least couple of weeks, is opening up all the restaurants going to affect the curve? Is that going to create a rise? Is that going to, create an influx of cases again? I'm not sure. So I would sure hate to have to close again just because we got a little carried away.
Now you guys have been operating with the takeout and delivery model. Can you just tell me about that transition and how that is going?
It was an evolving process, I would say. We have always done takeout and delivery at Spiro's, so it wasn't hard to go into it. We had a really strong takeout menu. We had a pretty good following, but what we needed to create is a 100% takeout kitchen. And also having, really when you have a takeout kitchen, you still have the 6 foot or 6 foot distance between your employees, right? So we had to take a kitchen that was originally the length of your kitchen, where you had the in-house dining happening here and then the takeout dining happening here, and we had to make that whole line all takeout. And so we had to stagger our people, and we had to create an environment that was all takeout and a very fluid one, so that everything that was happening on that line was walking out the door. And that was the really, really, really important thing that we had to say, that whatever we're doing today whatever we're doing in this minute is walking out the door. So how can we get it to walk out the door quickly? And and that meant taking, say, where we had one driver before, now we have 3 drivers. And it was just, ever changing and evolving, but always for the better. What can we do to make this better? And that was the thing. It had to be better.
And we did go back to our roots a little bit, because I remember when this all sort of began way back in March, it was like, well, how can we encourage people to eat out? And we kind of unanimously all decided that we needed to give people an incentive. And we thought way back when we were at the old restaurant by 7-Eleven, it was a thing where if you picked up, you got 10% off. I actually remember like the till, the cash register, it had a button that was like, pick up 10% off, subtotal cash. I remember all that. And so it was like, well, let's do that again.
So then what you have been doing over the last few months, is that something you guys are then going to probably incorporate here moving on in the future?
And I think that's kind of the foundation of how we're coming out of this, is we're thinking about ways to get people Spiro's without having to have that dine-in experience, which we love and people value so much, right. and we're respected for that dine-in experience. But how can we possibly get people that same experience but not walking through our doors? So that was thank you. So that was when we decided to do like those Mother's Day boxes, where we collaborated with Olive and Birch, and it was like, let's get your mom some cooking utensils for the kitchen, and also some sauce, and make her feel like she's basically getting a Spiro's meal, but she can really cook it herself. And same with the Father's Day grill boxes. Let's get them a box of meat, and they can kind of do with it what they want. But they're still getting, gifts. They're getting the Fourth Meridian beer like we serve here. They're getting an apron. They're getting a sauce. They're getting seasonings, instructions, so they could really cook Spiro's at home.
All right, thank you guys so much for your time here today. Really appreciate it.
Sureforce Jets are raising money for new equipment for their gym in Lloydminster. Jace Mackey spoke with owner Viola McNeil to learn about their Father's Day raffle.
So I'm joined today with Viola McNeil. She's the owner of the Cheerforce Jets. So it's a gym that operates in Cold Lake and in Lloydminster. Thanks for taking some time to talk with me today.
No problem. Thanks for asking me to meet with you.
So we're just starting off today, I wanted to talk a bit about a Father's Day raffle that is being organized by the parents of the gym. Can you just talk to me a little bit about the raffle and how it's going to work?
So for the raffle, tickets are $10 and it's a Father's Day raffle. There are 3 prizes. The first prize is a portable smoker barbecue, meat and beverage package, and a barbecue tool set. And then the second prize is a camping package, a liquor/beer basket, and a meat pack. And the third prize is a spa package, 6 medium pizzas, and a beer basket. So there's over $1,900 in prizes.
And if someone wants to buy a ticket to participate in this raffle, how are they able to do so?
They can email lloydminsterparentfundraising@gmail.com.
And with the money for this is going to go towards your gym, what kind of stuff are you guys going to be able to use with the new funding?
So for cheerleading gyms, we require quite a bit of equipment in order to have the athletes practicing safely. Competitive cheerleading, they're doing acrobatic stunting, so they're lifting and throwing each other in the air, and they're performing tumbling and jumps and dance. So we require a spring floor in order for them to practice safely. So the spring floor helps with the impact on their joints and that sort of thing. It also decreases the chance of injury if there is a fall. And then the mats that go on top of that are also quite expensive. So that's our most expensive cost. And then that gives the girls the chance to practice on the same performance surface that they'll be competing on.
And I was just wondering, a lot of different businesses and organizations have had to either shut down or change the way they've been doing things since about March. During this time, what have you guys been doing at Cheerforce Jets?
So we've been closed since March 15th. We closed a few days before sports were mandated closed, but we decided it would be safest for our athletes to close when the schools closed. Originally, we were doing virtual classes 3 times a week, so the kids were still having the opportunity to practice their tumbling drills and keep up with their strength and that sort of thing. Unfortunately, about 2 weeks ago, our insurance company put a stop to the virtual classes, but since then, we've found out that we'll be able to do day camps here in Alberta in phase 1. So we've started planning those to start next week. And then we'll be able to reopen our regular classes with some modifications on June 22nd.
And so that was for the Alberta side. When it comes to here in Lloydminster, is there any separate plans, or are you guys kind of working on the same timeline?
So for Lloydminster, it's going to take a bit for our equipment to arrive and that sort of thing. We also have a very experienced program director who will be moving from Red Deer to be the head coach of the program. So she'll be moving in August. And the plans right now for Lloydminster are to have everything set up to go for the 1st of September. And then if we're lucky, we'll be able to do a few clinics and camps and that sort of thing in the end of August.
And for up in Cold Lake, when you guys are planning the reopen process, how's it been? And what kind of things maybe are you guys is going to be different when you guys reopen fully? I think you said was it the 25th?
The week of the 22nd.
Okay.
So it's been a little bit challenging. I mean, obviously, we haven't experienced something like this before. And I think, the government and BizConnect here in Alberta, and as well as the Saskatchewan side, everybody's kind of working hard to get plans in action for different sports, but it's been tricky to kind of get clarification on certain things. So for example, in Alberta, we were able to start up day camps in phase 1, but we weren't able to get enough clarification to be comfortable moving forward until this week. It's been exciting, but the biggest portion of cheerleading is the stunting portion. So the girls are working in a close group of usually 4 athletes, and they're really close. They're face to face. So it's been challenging coming up with ways to train that aspect, but there's been quite a few cheerleading coaches throughout Canada and throughout the United States that have gotten together and been willing to share drills and resources and that sort of thing to keep these kids moving. So we're fully ready to kind of adapt our stunting practices until we're able to stunt in our groups again.
Well, thank you for taking some time to talk with me today. And I know it's kind of been an uncertain time, but hopefully you guys are looking forward in an optimistic way at the future. And I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back. Monday morning, U Sports Canada's governing body for university sports announced the cancellation of 6 national championships. University of Saskatchewan's football head coach Scott Flory sat down with our Evan Kenny to chat about the changes.
Good morning. U Sport as well as CanWest made the announcement that there would be 6 national championships canceled for this upcoming season. One of them being the Vanier Cup, the football men's championship. Joining me to talk about it today is University of Saskatchewan Huskies head coach Scott Flory. Scott, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Evan. I appreciate it.
Now, Scott, why don't you just break down, I guess, the events that took place on Monday and really from your perspective, what happened?
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind last couple of days, I think. I know. Finding out Monday morning, I guess, from our athletic department exactly what the decision was going to be, and then an hour later having that announcement come out from U Sports and then from the conference as well, and having 2 other conferences later in the day, the Atlantic and Ontario fall in line, and I'm not too sure where Quebec's at. I'm sure they're soon to follow suit. I think it's disappointing. Given the fact that we won't be able to compete for a championship in 2020, but I think that there's a lot of knee-jerk reaction initially, right to this. But what it doesn't limit us to do is that if we're allowed by our health authorities to be able to participate in the sport of football come the fall, we're going to do that. We're just not going to be playing competitive league games towards a Vanier Cup. That is incredibly disappointing. But the sport of football, if we're allowed to, is going to be back this fall.
Now, Scott, what are your thoughts on the decision being made at this time? Do you think it was too early in that, whatever council it may be could have waited until closer to the football season?
I don't know if there's ever a perfect time. I'm not going to get into the decision making and who made it and how they made it and why they made it. I think you'd have to ask them. I don't envy the decisions that have to be made, the timing. I mean, I don't know if there's ever perfect timing, but for us, I think it's just we got to be able to deal with it now and be able to manage our roster and manage our players and deal with them. I've been talking to numerous guys that through no fault of their own may have played their last game of football and not having this opportunity this season, and that's disappointing for them without a doubt. We got a bunch of new guys coming in on the front end too, and how we manage all that and have those supports in place to be able to support our student athletes as well. And I know that the commitment of me to our guys and to our program. And listen, Husky football is not going anywhere. Trust me on that. And we are committed to our guys as well.
Now, taking a look at it from a senior's point of view, obviously it's heartbreaking. Have you heard any talks about possibly, the eligibility changing for the upcoming seasons or whatnot? And then also, what would your thoughts be if that were the case?
Yeah, to my knowledge, no decision has been made on that. They, in order to use eligibility, you've got to play in conference play, right? So you got to play in at least 2 games. The part that's unique to football that, to my knowledge, has yet to be addressed is the age rule, which is we've got a maximum age that you cannot be 25 as of September 1st into your last season. So that hasn't been addressed to my knowledge. We've got on our roster, it would affect 5 guys. For my 2 cents, it doesn't matter. I'm not making a decision on it, right? But my 2 cents is obviously these guys should have that opportunity to compete, right? This is ripped from them. It's not their fault. I'm sure there's a lot that goes into the decision. But obviously from my end and my perspective, those guys want to play football and they should be given that opportunity in 2021 if it's taken from them in 2020.
And now when you look at the CFL draft that could happen next summer, what do you think could change there, especially with there being the potential of there being no football this year for those scouts to watch?
Yeah, again, that's a CFL property, so that's a CFL decision. I think that I think everybody kind of has an idea who those top, sort of guys are. But the problem is that there's a lot of guys that haven't maybe had the opportunity to fully show and to fully prove what they can do. So not having that competitive opportunity this fall, going into next spring, and whatever that potential CFL draft may or may not look like, that I don't know. I mean, they don't even know if they're playing yet this year, right? So there's so many unanswered questions. It's so hard to speculate. Well, it's easy to speculate, but I think it can be dangerous a little bit too. So as I tell our guys, we'll take it as the information comes, and we're planning, we're preparing, we anticipate some return to sport. There's going to be programming in the fall. I don't know what that's going to look like beyond working out and training, and we just don't know. But I know we've got numerous guys that we're headed to that All-Star game in the spring, the East-West All-Star game, to be able to showcase themselves for the scouts going into next year's draft. And I just can't speculate what that's going to look like in the future.
Well, Scott, I appreciate you taking this time. This was Scott Flory, head coach of the University of Saskatchewan Huskies football team.
Appreciate you having me on. Thanks, Evan.
Taking a look at your 7-day forecast for the rest of the week, we are seeing pretty high temperatures. Tomorrow will be 22 degrees, Friday up at 25, Saturday sitting at a nice 26, and Sunday going to 22. But as we head further into next week, we will be getting a bit colder, but still in those double-digit ranges. At 19 on Monday, 14 on Tuesday, and 17 on Wednesday, and seeing that sun and cloud mix throughout the week.